Listen, if I wanted to watch Tia Leone get terrorized by CGI monstrosities, I would just watch Jurassic Park 3. I mean, at least Jurassic Park 3 mixed in some practical effects. Actually, come to think of it, the CGI in that movie looked 10 times better, and that was made all the way back in 2001. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd rather watch Jurassic Park 3 than this. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
When a man and his daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn with their car, his boss tries to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties with horrific results. So this week I had the option to watch this movie, or what would probably be a generic but still entertaining Jason Statham action movie, and for some godforsaken reason I chose this. I mean, I should know better at this point. Anytime I see a horror comedy even being attempted in a modern movie, history has taught us to run in the other direction like a vicious unicorn is chasing you. And Death of a Unicorn is no exception to that. Now, was it as cringe-inducing as The Monkey was? No. You see, because The Monkey had a serious case of, I don't know what the type of movie I'm trying to be. Meanwhile, Death of a Unicorn knows exactly what type of movie it's trying to be. It just mostly fails at doing so. I just want to put this out there just in case anyone decides to take this review personally for some unknown reason. Just because a movie is very intentionally trying to do something and has a certain level of self-awareness to it, that does not mean that it's good, and it does not mean that we as the audience are obligated to then buy into whatever they are trying to do.
It's true.
Even in a movie that's not trying to be anything other than what it is, the execution still has to be right, and I think Death of a Unicorn missed the mark on that. Listen, the concept of this movie would have worked great in some 80s cult classic horror film that people look back on fondly because of its cheesiness. The problem is that when you try to recreate that in a modern movie, it will typically be missing the genuine charm that is present in a lot of movies from the past. And when they try to recreate that tone now, it almost always comes off as forced and manufactured. This to me is a horror comedy movie that is neither scary nor funny, and I know exactly how some people are going to respond to that. Well, you're a grown man and movies shouldn't scare you anymore anyway. But we all know that's a cop-out. If a horror movie is done right, they can still make me feel uneasy or genuine discomfort through the use of things like tension and atmosphere, two things that this film has very little of.
We ain't found shit.
Listen, don't get me wrong, there were a handful of really entertaining kills, but I'd be lying to you if I said they weren't at least partially ruined by the use of CGI blood. And I'm sorry, CGI blood will always be a cardinal cinema sin for me personally when it comes to horror movies. Something always feels wrong about it. It would be like if you went to see a romantic comedy and they CGI'd the mandatory kiss at the end. I mean, that's what the audience is there for, that's the payoff, and you are cheapening that with modern technology.
I understood that reference.
As far as the unicorns themselves go, I actually really dug the horror-inspired designs. I just wish they used a combination of CGI and practical effects to bring them to life, instead of just using CGI. I think it would have made those scenes where the characters are up close and personal with the unicorns all that more intense and lifelike. As far as the comedy goes, this movie definitely leans into the awkward situation modern comedy that we see a lot of, and that rarely ever lands with someone like me. Like, there's one scene in the movie where the characters are all standing around and no one wants to actually come out and say that what they are dealing with is unicorns, even though they are very obviously dealing with unicorns. And I don't know, it just came off as very forced to me, and I think it kind of ruined the moment. I mean, these people are coming to the realization that a creature like a unicorn is a real thing, and they are just kind of nonchalant about that revelation. Like many things in this movie, it just came off as awkward and weird to me, and it kind of took me out of the moment. As far as the characters go, a good portion of them are intentionally unlikable people. Will Poulter and Tia Leone specifically play these really entitled, rich, destructive people very well. I mean, by the end of the film, you definitely want to see a unicorn shove their horn straight through them, so mission accomplished, I guess.
Because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah!
As far as the two leads go, Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega play a father-daughter duo that I never really bought into 100% as a legitimate father-daughter duo. Paul Rudd is kind of a douche in this movie, and we find out later in the film that there is at least a good reason for him to be a douche, but this may be one of the only times in a movie where for a good portion of the runtime, Paul Rudd is actually playing a somewhat unlikable character. As far as Jenna Ortega goes, it feels like she's already been typecast into all of the angsty teenage roles, and it's already starting to run its course. I mean, it's actually starting to feel like that she's just playing a slightly different variation of the same character in every single movie she's in. I guess this time, at the very least, they are not trying to shoehorn her into an already established franchise, so there's that. But I don't know if I'm going to see her as this big movie star that everyone clearly wants her to be, if she doesn't eventually branch out and try some different things.
Not impressed.
As far as the plot goes, it is a very on-the-nose commentary on pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare system. And that actually might have been a lot more interesting if it wasn't so straightforward. There's also this subplot of the father and the daughter kind of trying to fix their relationship after a tragedy, something that we've seen a million times before. That part of the movie, however, did offer a couple of genuine heartfelt moments that did resonate with me to a degree. But it was nowhere near enough to make up for the shortcomings in this film elsewhere. Bottom line, Death of a Unicorn does feel like a giant missed opportunity, because this does feel like a film that should have been a lot more fun and entertaining than it actually ended up being. I give them credit for at least trying to craft a somewhat original story, and even taking the time to establish some lore inspired by fantasy and folklore. But at the end of the day, I felt next to nothing while watching this movie, and that's exactly why I'm going to give Death of a Unicorn the Careless Sam Gerard.
I don't care! Y'all be cool. Shut up.